Will the secretary please call the roll?
Director Carr? Here. Director Garcia has asked to be excused. Director Jackson?
Present.
Director Leonard?
Present.
Director O'Halloran has asked to be excused for tonight. Director Simpson?
Present.
Director Zombar?
Present.
And President Herndon has asked to be excused for tonight. Vice President Gokul Gandhi.
Present.
We have 6 present.
I will now ask the secretary to lead us in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so, and ask those who do not wish to participate, please remain silent during the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being conducted from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public access and participation as possible, this meeting is also being broadcast on WYMS Radio 88.9 FM via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a regarding the interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
Thank you. We are going to do the land acknowledgement now. We acknowledge that Milwaukee lies on traditional Menominee, Potawatomi, and Ho-Chunk homeland along the southwest shores of Lake Michigan, part of North America's greatest system of freshwater lakes. On this site, the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnick rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's Menominee, Ojibwe, Ho-Chunk, Oneida, and Mohican sovereign nations remain present to this day. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Orders dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair. Any questions or requests, including those from the public, board members, or the administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or action will immediately be asked to leave. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called, and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, he or she will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. Also, no one other than the members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after the meetings of the board and its committees. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the meetings, agendas, and minutes page of the MPS website. As indicated in the call of the meeting, we are here to receive public testimony on the proposed fiscal year 2024 school operations, construction, and extension fund budgets. Tonight's meeting is for public hearing only, and the board will not take any action on the proposed budget tonight. The chair asks that any member of the public wishing to speak please complete a speaker slip and bring it to our board clerk, Dr. Mann, who's sitting over here. Virtual speakers are asked to remain on the platform until you are called upon to speak. After speaking, virtual speakers may follow the remainder of the meeting at any of the broadcast options mentioned previously. Written testimony will also be accepted and will be included as a part of the official record of the meeting. Written testimony may be mailed to the board via the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201-2181, fax to 414-475-8071, or email to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. We will now open the floor to the members of the public in attendance tonight. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. In order to hear from as many people as possible, the chair asks that individuals limit their remarks to 2 minutes with an additional 15 seconds for wrap-up. There is a timer on the lectern. Your time will indicate when the green light comes on. The yellow light will indicate that you have 15 seconds to wrap up, and the red light will indicate that your time is up. For the sake of efficiency, the chair will call 3 speakers at a time. When your name is called, please come up and wait in the queue for your turn to speak. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers on the virtual platform?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have individuals on the platform ready to speak, as well as 9 individuals who are here in person. And the call of the reading reads, the call of the meeting, the members of the Board of School Directors is scheduled to hold a meeting taking place in the auditorium of the Central Services Building, 5225 West Belich Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for consideration of the following items of business. The special board meeting is a statutory public hearing scheduled to begin at 5:30 p.m. Tuesday, May 16, 2023. The statutory public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2023-24 school operations, construction, and extension funds budget. This meeting is being presented pursuant to provisions of Section 119.16, Parent 8, Wisconsin statutes, which requires that the board hold a public hearing on the proposed school budget. The purpose of the meeting is strictly for giving public testimony. No action will be taken at the meeting. The board may take action on the proposed FY24 budget at its tentatively scheduled meeting on May 25th, 2023. Madam Chair, members of the board, and for our listening audience, we have been informed that there's no one on the virtual platform at this time, so we can go to in-person speaker slips.
Great. So we will start, as I said, the first speaker will be Brandy J. Williams, but if Beverly Hamilton Williams and Minister Sheila Tompkins could line up, that would be great. Just a friendly reminder, all comments should be about the budget. So we will start with Miss Brandy J. Williams.
Good evening. My name is Brandy Williams, spelled Williams.
Thank you.
I am an employee, an MPS alum, a constituent, a taxpayer, and a 40-year resident of this neighborhood. And I come before this body today to urge you to make school meals a priority in this year's budget. I have been following this issue for quite some time, and it has been heartbreaking. Equally heartbreaking was watching the students I serve protest in front of my window and through my neighborhood. As an employee, I understand staffing shortage, the cost of restoring production kitchens, and the supply chain issues. But I applaud this body for the progress it has made in hiring a chef, performing taste test sessions, creating a task force, exhausting all hiring avenues, and updating what will be 50 production kitchens by the opening of academic year 23-24. But as a constituent and a taxpayer, I have to say that that is not good enough. We can do more. And the good news is that MPS is equipped to meet this moment with the urgency it requires. We have the resources, we have the staff, and we have the expertise. One of the things I would like for you to explore is short RFPs. Contracts with local vendors. We have a wonderful select offer versus serve program in our schools, but it would be to our benefit for the teachers in the building as well if we could make contracts with local vendors to provide fresh salads and sandwiches every day, in addition to the entrees that we serve. Schools are in food deserts. Teachers do not have a lot of time. It's cost-effective, it's convenient, and it gives us the opportunity to offer teachers comfort. I also urge you to explore hiring our students that are trained in NAF programs for those part-time positions. I'm running out of time right now, but I applaud you again for all the hard work you do, and I know that we can rise to the occasion. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Beverly Hamilton Williams.
Beverly Williams, Williams.
Thank you.
Our group, Community Takeover Voices of Milwaukee's Children, is concerned about Milwaukee youth staying in school, learning, and graduating. Based on the MPS Parent and Community Engagement Report, PACE reports, this
Ma'am?
is not
Are your comments about the budget?
this is not happening. Yes, it is. This is not this is not happening with the disparities and suspensions of Black students making up 49.8% of 38,000 students in MPS, with 15,229 suspensions from August 22 to August 23. MPS data, success for students is also not happening with the 50% truancy rate. All of these issues place more students in the streets in
Ms.
Milwaukee
Williams,
during school
your
hours.
comments must be about
possibly
the
with-
MPS budget.
Miss, what is your name?
Ms. Gokul Gandhi.
Miss Gokul Gandhi, I want you all to put tabs in the, why are you interrupting me?
Your comments have to be about the budget.
Okay, it is about the budget. It is about
Okay,
the budget.
could you get to those comments,
It
please?
is about, you've interrupted me. It's about the budget, putting tabs into the budget. Okay, so, I mean, I'm giving you background information.
Okay.
You're being rude. Now, you've interrupted me, it's 50. So what do we do from this point? From where you interrupted me? And I'm trying to get into that, what we feel needs to be in the budget.
You can keep going, go ahead.
Lord have mercy. Okay, an example, all of these issues place more students on the streets of Milwaukee during school hours, possibly with some involving themselves in chaos instead of working towards a productive future. An example of this chaos are the MPS students who stole a car and caused a horrific accident in front of Morris Middle School on May 1st at 1:30 p.m. The high truancy in MPS and the disparities with suspensions of Black students is not addressed within this $1.5 billion budget. The interventions listed on your case reports to decrease suspensions are not working, possibly because of lack of training for MPS employees. You should not have Black students having 434 suspensions for chronic disruption and white students having 3. CTO requests that MPS and the MPD work together to reenact the truancy abatement program with emphasis
Ms. Williams,
on
your time is up.
in our community as another
Ms. Williams.
layer of combating chaos and
Ms. Williams, thank you for your comments.
stay in school
Your time is
and
up.
graduate. We would like you to put tabs
Okay,
back
we will have our next speaker, Minister Sheila Tompkins. Please come to the mic.
That not have anything to do with the budget. Okay?
Minister Sheila Tompkins.
You want me to speak about this budget, right?
Can you please
State your
state your
name.
name? Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Your last name for the.
Tompkins, Thompkins,
Thank you. Go ahead.
okay? Want me to speak about this budget that is put it before us, $1.5 billion. I don't know what you want me to say about a budget like that, because our children need every piece of this budget, and being a taxpayer, a parent, just me, just some concerned citizen. And everybody is saying something, speak about this budget, right? Every salary that you have is on this budget. So our children, education, point of security, their mental health should be on this budget. And you have it. So why isn't it being done in Milwaukee Public Schools? Aisha Carr, Director Carr, her proposal was excellent. And you voted down. And you see everything that's happening now. How can we bring that back with this budget? We can't. Oh, the teachers, right? Parents can be, ministers can be, police, mentors, 25 officers. What happened? If they were in school, mentoring, de-escalation, that would be solved, correct? So, that budget, let me brace myself. That budget, $1.5 billion, that's the beast in Milwaukee. Everybody here knows it. Everything that's happening in this community is on that $1.5 billion. And our kids is not for sale at all, at all. Their mental health, their educational growth for something new into the future. STEM, you know, technology, not the same institutional racism systemically that's being on this budget. This is sick. All of it. Each one of y'all. Sick. And to have, look in this audience, I asked for every parent, student, 1 minute, 1 second, to be here. And look who's here. Not a black person.
Our next speaker will be Lucas Weir.
You will be recalled, Dr. Gandhi. No, I put my hand up, God, girl. No, yes, Lord. They have to do it everywhere. You're recallable. Callable. Are recallable. Thank you.
And the next speaker after that, if you could get in line, is Michael Glaben. I'm sorry if I mispronounced. Glaben. Okay. And the speaker after that is Ray Chappelle.
But you're filling up the white schools, the teachers. Pathetic. And all of you black folks sitting up there.
Go ahead, Mr. Weir.
Lucas Weir, W-I-E-R-E-R. Good evening, Superintendent Posley and members of the board. I would like to speak to 2 different topics related to the budget tonight. First, I would like to speak as a member of Are We Aspiring Anti-Racist White Educators in favor of the joint amendment proposal, or to be proposed by Directors Carr and Leonard, in concert with our organization, which asks for the funding of ongoing and integrated anti-racist training for educators over the course of the next 5 years and beyond. As is evident by the name of our organization, anti-racism is not a destination, but a constant journey, and one that requires diligent and intentional hard work. Truthfully, this work is essential for all people, but especially for us as educators. Having worked on this type of training with educators over the course of the last 7+ years, we often talk about the impact of physical violence at the hands of law enforcement and the violence embedded in the justice system as a whole, and how it impacts largely black and brown communities we serve, but we are less willing to acknowledge and discuss how we as educators cause a different form of violence. We disperse ideological violence in less overt but very real ways that negatively impact black and brown children, their families, and communities as workers for the state. That is why it is essential that we ramp up our work as educators to advance anti-bias and anti-racist practices throughout the district. I would also like to speak briefly to the issue of teacher staffing in the budget. I just read a piece by former school board member Falk, which referenced an analysis by Matthew Chasen, Senior Director of the MPS Office of Accountability and Efficiency, stating that our budget will be balanced only if there are $70 million+ in teacher vacancies. Knowing what I do about how difficult it is to fill vacancies at schools that serve those at the intersection of multiple marginalized identities, I have very real concerns about what this means. Suddenly, the vacancies feel, if not intentional, at least a consequence of flawed systems. To quote the end of the article, but at schools where no one applies, positions are filled in whatever manner the districts can provide or not at all. That means that desirable schools are likely to get their full complement of specialists in such areas as art and music. Less desirable schools often go without, and the regular classrooms may be staffed with a series of substitute teachers or individuals on provisional licenses, or in the case of this year, virtual teachers as well. This is probably not something we can handle in this year's budget, but I would urge us to think about it for next year. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Michael Glaben.
Glaber.
Sorry.
Michael Glaber, Glabere.
Thank you.
I'm an employee of the district at Burbank as a paraeducator on the MTEA and MEAA board. I want to thank you. Budgets are a reflection of our values, and not all budgets are satisfactory for everyone. The 8% and step that's in this budget means you value the staff who are here, and you value attracting more staff, as districts around the state do not rise up to the levels that you have. The no changes in benefits also means that you value us as staff. I will ask you to reflect as you're debating the budget later that there are some employees, again, I'm an ESP, Education Support Professional. There are thousands of us who do not qualify for FMLA. I don't know if you're aware of that. We don't work enough hours in the year in order to reach the federal standards. I became aware of that when my father was dying of Alzheimer's and I could not take FMLA to do respite care with him. That's one of many, many, many stories throughout the district. I understand budgets are tight, but I would like you to think about addressing that, because that's a way of us attracting more paraprofessionals, healthcare aides in our district. Having the same benefits as everyone else means that we are more attractive to everyone else. All right. At the same time, that 8% means a lot. It means a lot to people's bottom lines. That no increase or no changes in our benefit costs means a lot to people, frankly. All right. And so you've done a good job with a hard budget, and I just ask you to have some consideration for what else you can do within it to really value us as employees and keep us working hard for our kids and for our district. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Ray Chappelle. After that will be Mary Grogan.
Ray Chappelle, representative Anti-Racist White Educators, Aspiring Anti-Racist White Educators and Equity Coalition, CHAPPELLE. 4 years ago, the members of the board, some of whom remain on this board today, passed Resolution 1920R-005 titled the Anti-Racism Resolution. The verbiage in that resolution went something like, anti-racist, anti-bias, and restorative practices training is imperative for all staff and students. The resolution went further, stating the importance of integrating continuous unlearning of our biases within the first 5 years of that resolution passing. Myself and other members of organizations within the Equity Coalition could not agree more with the language of this resolution, but what actions were taken. We are less than 1 year away from that 5-year mark, and where do we find ourselves? As an elementary school teacher, staff at my school were not given an opportunity to take courageous conversations about race PD.
Can you please direct your comments towards the budget?
Get there. Thanks. Restorative practices are not mandated, but volunteer-based. Although some high schools and middle schools have had their staff participate in CCR, what was the, CCAR, what was that one-time PD doing? Was it enough to shift the culture and climate of those learning communities? I invite you to freedom dream with me for a moment. Imagine the outcomes of a diverse school district that commits itself and funds itself to continual anti-bias, specifically anti-racist, practice development. You see and hear from me and others in RWE monthly due to the inequitable stagnancy of discipline disproportionality data. Required annual anti-racist PD would reduce the inequitable burden that we put on our Black scholars and their families. The dream doesn't stop there. Imagine the ways that our mostly white teaching staff would be better equipped to engage and holistically support their mostly Black and brown students. Data proves that young people's academic success improves when their teachers and the curriculum that they're taught reflects their own identities. But unfortunately, our teaching staff does not reflect the identities of our students at this time. So how are we preparing the white teachers we currently employ to have more empathy regarding the historical impacts of generations of oppression? How are we encouraging teaching staff to center marginalized voices and stories, which will also boost student achievement and engagement? And last thing, creating a more intentionally anti-racist staff will help us attract more Black and brown teachers. So be on the lookout from the budget amendment co-sponsored by Equity Coalition and Director Carr and Director Leonard. Thank you.
Mary Grogan. And our next speaker is Gretchen Kapperman.
Mary Grogan, Grogan, straight out of counseling at Reagan IB High School. The strongest arguments for increasing the school counselor's work calendar from 191 days to 200 days and updating the salary schedules to match school social workers and school psychologists are: number one, the pupil service staff by definition consists of school counselors, school social workers, and school psychologists. School counselors focus on academic support, social and emotional mental health, and college and career readiness for all students. School social workers and school psychologists have other areas of expertise, but we all have master's degrees and work collaboratively with the students in our buildings. Please consider making our work calendar contract and pay scale equitable for the entire pupil service staff. Number two, school counselors have student schedules, student records, and student situations to review before students arrive in August, and student schedules, summer school registrations, and graduation requirements to review when students leave for summer break. We need more time to prepare students for their first day of the school year and more time to make sure that students are transitioned correctly to summer school and the college and career choices they have made. Although we do spend time in the classroom like teachers, our work with students does not begin and end with the first and last day of school. The fact that school counselors are currently on the teacher pay scale is likely left over from the days when guidance counselors had to have a teaching degree before they could become a licensed counselor. The work of school counselors has expanded dramatically as the academic, social, and emotional needs of students have increased, and as the college and career readiness needs have also become more complex. Please extend the school counselor work calendar from 191 days to 200 and update the salary schedule so that the entire pupil services staff can be compensated equitably. Thank you for your time. A special congratulations to the newly elected directors and a special shout out to Director O'Halloran from District 8. Thank you.
Gretchen Kapperman. And next will be Michelle Hilbert.
Gretchen Kapperman, Kapperman.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Posley, members of the board. I'm a member of Aspiring Anti-Racist White Educators of Milwaukee and the Equity Coalition. As a white educator, I am here to testify to the importance of the budget amendment for ongoing integrated building-based anti-racist professional development proposed by Directors Carr and Directors Leonard. As you know, we talk to you every month at PACE about the crisis that our Black and brown students are in when it comes to our disproportionate discipline of them. We know 50% of our students are Black, but they make up 79% of students who have been suspended to date. Students who are pushed out of their classrooms and schools are more likely to be involved with the criminal justice system. So the Milwaukee Public Schools, this is a wonderful opportunity, a proactive, positive opportunity for you to put funding and effort into a thing that we need to work on, something that we at Anti-Racist White Educators, Aspiring Anti-Racist White Educators, do very frequently. We've been doing that for several years. And I believe that it's ongoing and it's lifelong work for white folks to work at unlearning racism. And because we have such a huge amount of white teachers, as Raven was stating, you know, we need to work on becoming anti-racist. It's a process. And this proposal
gives our staff the process to unlearn racism. Thank you.
Next is Michelle Hilbert.
Hilbert, Hilbert. Michelle, what else? Am I supposed to say something else? I forgot. Okay, thanks. All right, I am also with aspiring anti-racist white educators, and I want to amplify what my learning partners already have said. As a white educator, I started my career as a para in 1999, and I was making about $17,000 a year then. I don't think my current colleagues who are serving my children are making much more than that now. But we also know that Milwaukee County was the first governing board in the nation to pass a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis in this community in 2019. Before that, as previous speakers have indicated, MPS has been working with the Office of Civil Rights to address the discipline disproportionality, and we know that has other pieces around that. We, as our staff, MPS staff, have some ideas of that we want to and how to address these problems, but are we really demonstrating a commitment with impactful action? As a member of RWE, we task ourselves with, we do not task ourselves with correcting decades of racism within our systems, but old systems can be transformed with visionary leadership. We are unlearning and learning with how intentional effort shifts mindsets. Building anti-bias practices requires ongoing learning, discussion, application, and like any other muscle, anti-racist and anti-bias practices need reps. To better meet our students' needs, these practices must be integrated into the whole of MPS. We must have ongoing trainings and support at the school level with dedicated funding. We know that budgets are moral documents. What will ours prioritize? So I urge you to adopt the anti-racist practice development budget amendment, which includes that financial piece, the building-based stipend, and the ongoing contract with Pacific Education. Thank you for your time.
Madam Secretary, do we have any more speakers?
Madam Chair, we have no additional public testimony on this item.
The board having taken public testimony, this public hearing is concluded. The board will continue its work on the proposed FY24 budget at the meeting of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023, which is scheduled to begin at 5:30 p.m. here in the Central Services Auditorium. This will be a public meeting and public testimony will be taken. Also, the board is scheduled to possibly take final action on the proposed FY24 budget at the regular meeting of the board on May 25th, 2023. This meeting is scheduled to begin at 5:30 p.m. here in the Central Services Auditorium. Although this will be a public meeting, as is customary at regular meetings of the board, no public hearing will be given. Before we adjourn this meeting tonight, I would like to thank all of you who either addressed the board tonight or provided us with your comments. If any of our listening audience would like to submit comments, please send them to the Office of Board Governance, Central Services Building, Room 273, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53201, or email them at governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us, or fax them at 414-475-8071. I would also like to thank the superintendent and his staff, particularly the staff of the Financial Planning and Budget Services, for their hard work and many long hours devoted to developing a budget that will best serve our students and their families and our staff in the midst of the worst financial challenges that this district has ever faced. Thank you all for your participation in this meeting and in the entire budget process to date. There being no further business before the board, this meeting is